Have you ever had a moment where your heart felt like it was pounding louder than usual for no reason at all? Or maybe you felt a strange tightness in your head, like something was pressing down, but you just brushed it off as stress or aging. What if I told you those quiet signals, those whispers from your body, could actually be your heart crying out for help? Not loudly, not in a way that stops you in your tracks, but silently. And sometimes silence is the most dangerous warning of all. High blood pressure is often called the silent killer. But what many people don't realize is that the body isn't always silent. It tries to speak to us softly, subtly, through discomfort, through tension, through sensations that are easy to ignore when life is busy or when you're used to pushing through. But for those of us in our 60s and beyond, ignoring these small signs can lead to life-changing consequences: a stroke, a heart attack, kidney failure. And often there are clues before that cliff. Little messages wrapped in symptoms that seem harmless until they're not. In this video, we're going to walk through 5 signs of high blood pressure you can actually feel before it's too late. Real physical signals that your body may be giving you right now. And by tuning in, by listening gently and acting early, you may save your own life or the life of someone you love. And please stay with me until the end, because I'll also share a calming 2-minute technique you can do right at home to bring relief to your body and peace to your mind. You won't need anything fancy, just your breath, your focus, and a little quiet. Let's begin with something that too many people overlook: persistent headaches, especially in the morning. Not the kind that comes from skipping coffee or staying up too late. I'm talking about that dull, pressing sensation that wraps around your forehead or throbs behind your eyes as soon as you open them. Let me tell you about George, a 68-year-old grandfather of 3 who thought his headaches were just a side effect of getting older. Every morning around 6 a.m., he'd wake up with a heavy head, blaming it on his pillow, on the weather, on tension. But what George didn't know is that during sleep, our blood pressure naturally dips. When it doesn't, when the pressure stays high, even in rest, it can press against the blood vessels in the brain, causing discomfort that wakes us up before the alarm. George only found out when he finally mentioned it to his doctor during a routine checkup, and a quick cuff reading revealed his numbers were dangerously high. That conversation, that one moment of curiosity, likely saved him from something far worse. If you've been waking up with head pressure or morning headaches more days than not, especially if you're not dehydrated or stressed, it's worth a closer look. Your body could be telling you something important. Now let's talk about fatigue, not just the kind where you need a nap after lunch, but a deep, dragging tiredness that seems to sit in your bones. This one is tricky because it can be blamed on so many things: aging, poor sleep, stress. But for some people, high blood pressure slowly narrows the small blood vessels that deliver oxygen to your muscles and brain. Less oxygen means less energy. The body starts running on fumes. I'll never forget the story of Rosa, a 73-year-old woman who used to walk 2 miles every morning with her neighbor. One summer, she began to lag behind. At first, she thought it was just the heat or her arthritis acting up. But her fatigue was different this time. It felt heavier, like her limbs were made of wet sand. When she finally went to her doctor, they found her blood pressure was sky high. Her heart had been working overtime for months trying to push blood through narrowed, stiff vessels. No wonder she was exhausted. After getting her numbers under control, she didn't feel 30 again, but she could walk, smile, and enjoy her mornings again. And that made all the difference. If you're finding yourself more winded than usual, tired even after a full night's sleep, don't just chalk it up to aging. There might be more to the story. Another sign your body might be giving you is shortness of breath, not just when climbing stairs, but sometimes even while sitting down. It can sneak up on you during a phone call or while brushing your teeth. Some people describe it as feeling like they can't quite take a deep breath, like something invisible is pressing on their chest. Let's take Harold, age 70, who had been feeling like this for weeks. He thought it was asthma or maybe just his age catching up to him. But what was really happening was that his high blood pressure had been straining his heart, slowly weakening it over time. When the heart can't pump blood effectively, fluid starts to back up in the lungs, making it harder to breathe. That shortness of breath. It wasn't age, it was a warning, a clear one. It's so easy to ignore these kinds of symptoms, especially when they come on gradually. We tell ourselves it's normal to slow down. But when you really listen, You may notice that your body's asking for help. And help doesn't have to mean panic or pills. It starts with awareness, with curiosity, with asking yourself, is this how I want to feel? And could something deeper be going on? If any of this has struck a chord with you so far, I want you to know you're not alone. In fact, if this is resonating with you, I'd love for you to comment with your age or where you're watching from. It's wonderful to know we are on this journey together. Whether you're in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, your body still wants to heal, to feel better, to thrive. Because sometimes what feels like ordinary aging is really something extraordinary happening under the surface, something we have the power to change. All it takes is a little awareness, a little care, and a willingness to listen. Let's keep listening. Let's keep going. Now that we've opened the door to awareness, let's continue walking through the quiet signals your body might be sending. Because these signs don't come with sirens or flashing lights. They come in whispers. They come in the discomfort. And sometimes they come in places you wouldn't expect. Another signal that often flies under the radar is chest pressure. Not necessarily sharp pain, but a heavy or tight sensation in the chest, like someone is gently pressing down with a palm. This feeling doesn't always scream emergency, but it can be a crucial early clue that your blood pressure is running too high. When the pressure in your arteries increases, your heart has to push harder to circulate blood, and over time, this constant strain can lead to what doctors call angina, or chest discomfort caused by reduced blood flow to the heart. I want to tell you about Florence. She's 75, a retired nurse with a calm spirit and a sharp mind. She had always taken pride in caring for others, but when it came to herself, she was quick to dismiss anything that felt like a complaint. For weeks, she'd noticed a dull pressure in her chest whenever she walked up the stairs or carried groceries. She'd pause, catch her breath, and keep going, but her body was trying to slow her down for a reason. During a family dinner, she excused herself to sit quietly, and that's when her daughter insisted they go to urgent care. The blood pressure readings shocked them all. Florence had been walking around with numbers that put her at risk for heart failure. That quiet heaviness was not just age. It was her body waving a red flag. This is why we can't afford to ignore sensations that feel new, especially in the chest. Even if they aren't painful, even if they come and go, that slight pressure could be your heart asking for rest, for help, for care. And what about your vision? One of the most surprising early signs of high blood pressure can actually show up in your eyes. You may notice occasional blurry vision or feel like you're looking through a foggy window. Some describe it as seeing floaters more often or feeling like their eyes are unusually strained. It's easy to blame reading glasses or screen time, but high blood pressure can affect the tiny, delicate blood vessels in your eyes, leading to a condition called hypertensive retinopathy. It's a fancy term, but the meaning is simple. When blood pressure is too high, it damages the blood vessels in the retina, the part of your eye that receives light and sends signals to your brain. Let me introduce you to Victor, a 69-year-old who loved photography. One day he noticed that the edges of his vision were slightly darker, like a shadow creeping in. He thought maybe it was just poor lighting, or maybe he was tired. But over the next week, things got worse. He began seeing little flashes of light that weren't really there. At his annual eye appointment, the optometrist spotted signs of vessel damage and urged him to see his doctor immediately. That appointment likely saved his eyesight and his life. His blood pressure was so elevated that the vessels in his eyes were beginning to swell and bleed. If left untreated, he could have suffered permanent vision loss or even a stroke. Our eyes are windows into what's happening inside the body. Blurred vision floaters or changes in how you see could be more than just age. They could be a clue that your blood vessels are under too much pressure. So don't just clean your glasses and brush it off. If your vision is changing in new ways, take it seriously. Let's also talk about something very few people connect to blood pressure: frequent nosebleeds. Now, not every nosebleed means something is wrong, but if you're having them more often than you used to, it's worth paying attention. When blood pressure spikes, especially suddenly, the delicate vessels in your nose can rupture more easily. Some people find themselves waking up with blood on the pillow or getting a random nosebleed while bending down to tie their shoes. It's not always dramatic, but it's your body's way of relieving pressure when it gets too high. There's a woman named Ethel, 76, who kept tissues in every room of her house. For months, she'd been getting small nosebleeds every few days, usually in the morning. She thought it was just the dry air, but during a visit with her grandson, he pointed out how often she was dabbing her nose and encouraged her to get it checked. When her doctor took her blood pressure, it was in the red zone. Ethel was shocked. She had no other symptoms, no dizziness, no pain. Just these quiet little nosebleeds. After treatment, they disappeared, and so did her risk of a future crisis. So if you find yourself reaching for tissues more often, or if your nose bleeds without any clear reason, it might be more than dryness. It might be your body whispering that the pressure is too high. And that leads us to a final subtle sign for today, pounding in your chest, neck, or ears. This sensation is hard to describe unless you felt it. Some say it's like feeling your heartbeat in your throat or hearing it pulsing in your ears when you lie down at night. Others feel it in their temples or at the base of their neck. When blood pressure rises, it forces blood through the arteries with greater intensity, and that pounding or throbbing feeling can become more noticeable, especially during rest. There's a man named Donald who used to fall asleep to classical music, but one night he heard a rhythm that wasn't part of the orchestra, a slow, heavy thump, thump, thump echoing in his right ear. At first he thought it was the neighbor's bass, but the next night it returned, and this time it felt like it was inside his head. That's when he knew something wasn't right. The next morning his doctor confirmed his blood pressure had spiked dangerously high. That pounding was his body speaking loud enough for him to hear. So if your body feels like it's pulsing in places it shouldn't be, or if your heartbeat feels unusually forceful in your ears, don't ignore it. It's not just your imagination. It could be a sign that your cardiovascular system is under pressure, quite literally. If you're still watching and finding these lessons valuable, please comment the number 1 below, just so I know you're still with me. Thank you for your precious time. It means a lot to have your presence here and your courage to look inward with honesty and care. Your body is always trying to protect you. It sends you signals not to scare you, but to guide you. And the more you learn to listen, the more empowered you become to act. Even if it's just a little change in your daily routine or making that one phone call to your doctor, it matters. Let's keep going. Let's keep listening. Because you deserve to feel good, to move freely, to breathe deeply, and to live with peace. By now you probably realize something that so many people overlook. The body does speak. Even in the early stages of high blood pressure, it tries to get your attention with gentle nudges. A pressure here, a tiredness there, a flicker in the vision, or a pounding in the ears. And when you learn to honor those signs, not dismiss them, you give yourself the most powerful gift of all time. Time to prevent, to heal, and to live fully with confidence rather than fear. Let's talk about one more silent sign, perhaps the most misunderstood of all anxiety, or a feeling of restlessness that comes out of nowhere. It might feel like a fluttering in your chest or like something is just off, even though nothing seems wrong on the surface. Some people describe it as an uneasiness that settles in during quiet moments, like when you're sitting down to read or winding down for sleep. Your mind feels alert, your body a little jumpy, and your heart is beating harder than it should for someone who's just sitting still. Now, this is where things get tricky. It's easy to say I'm just stressed. And yes, stress is part of modern life. But for older adults, especially unexplained anxiety, can actually be the body's reaction to pressure building inside. When your blood pressure rises quickly, your nervous system reacts as if you're in danger. Your heart rate goes up. Adrenaline is released. Your muscles tense. It feels like anxiety, but it could be your cardiovascular system crying out for relief. Diane, age 71, experienced this firsthand. She had always been calm and grounded, the kind of woman who others leaned on. But one week, for no clear reason, she started feeling on edge. Her hands would tremble slightly while pouring tea. She couldn't sleep well. Her heart felt like it was tapping from the inside at night, and she kept wondering if something was wrong, even though nothing had changed in her routine. Her daughter noticed and suggested they check her blood pressure at home. The numbers were high, very high. It turned out Diane's sudden wave of anxiety wasn't emotional, it was physical. Once her blood pressure was treated, the tension faded, her sleep returned, and so did her ease. So, if you're feeling unusually restless, if your heart is racing for no clear reason, or if you're lying awake with a sense of unease, don't just chalk it up to worry or age. There might be more to explore. There's nothing weak about checking in with yourself. In fact, it's one of the strongest things you can do. And that brings us to something incredibly empowering, a calming technique you can start using today. It's not a cure, and it's not a replacement for proper care, but it's a gift you can give your body whenever it feels tense, heavy, or overwhelmed. All you need is 2 minutes and a quiet space. Start by placing one hand on your chest and the other on your belly. Sit comfortably or lie down. Close your eyes if it feels safe. Now take a slow, deep breath in through your nose, allowing your belly to rise as you inhale. Feel your lower hand lift gently, then breathe out softly through your mouth, allowing your belly to fall. Try to make the exhale longer than the inhale. For example, inhale to the count of 4, exhale to the count of 6. As you breathe, imagine your heart softening, your vessels relaxing, and your body finding balance. With each breath, you are telling your nervous system that you are safe, that you are listening, and that you care. Do this for just 2 minutes, especially before bed or after any stressful moment. Over time, this kind of breathing can help reduce the pressure in your system, not just emotionally, but physically too. Now I want you to know this. Having high blood pressure is not your fault. It can sneak in quietly, shaped by time, stress, genetics, or habits you didn't even know were harming you. But now you know what to look for. Now you have awareness, and awareness is the beginning of transformation. Let's briefly walk through what we've covered together. The body may signal high blood pressure through morning headaches, deep fatigue, breathlessness, chest pressure, vision changes, frequent nosebleeds, pounding in the ears or chest, and unexpected anxiety. These aren't always dramatic, but they are messages, gentle, consistent messages. Please don't wait for a crisis to make a change. If any of these signs feel familiar to you, let that be your cue to check in. Get your blood pressure measured regularly, either at home or during visits to your doctor. Write down your numbers. Stay curious about how you feel, not afraid, because you are your own best advocate. You have the right to understand your body, to question what feels off, and to seek help when something doesn't feel quite right. So what was the one lesson today that really hit home for you? Please share one habit you plan on adopting in your life. Maybe it's checking your blood pressure more often. Maybe it's listening more closely to that tiredness or tension. Whatever it is, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. And if this message has supported you in any way, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps this message reach others who may be silently struggling with the same questions, the same worries, the same symptoms. You are not alone, you are not powerless, and you are not too late. Here's to living your best life at any age, with strength, with peace, with full, vibrant presence.